Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this month's, I almost said weekly look ahead. Woo! Ask the Elephant. How's everybody doing this Wednesday morning? I'm doing all right. Hopefully, y'all are having a good holiday season. Yeah, that's it. That's good morning. Hi, everybody. All right, so what do we got? We got a whole lot of highs. All right, awesome. And I'll be honest, there wasn't a whole lot of questions by way of in the Slack channel or in the guild. So I'll enjoy some Earl Grey tea while you guys come up with some stuff. As you can see over my head, kind of behind me, Underwater Cities, that live stream is going to be coming tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, which that's midnight UTC, 0100 CET. Either going to be a 2 or 3 player game. You'll understand why I would never, ever want to play this game at 4 players. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So there we go. All right. Sakinic, Sinichi? I don't know. We'll go with it. At the moment, celebrating with my student in the Netherlands, eating dinner. Awesome. What are you having for dinner? Oh, what's my Boston holiday going to look like? Dutch Yoda said. I have a Charlie Brown tree downstairs. There are some presents underneath there. Going to Jess's sister's house, I think, is what it is, for kind of a family meal. It's a potluck. I get to make a standing rib roast. Half the people coming are vegan or vegetarian. So I got to make a smaller standing rib roast, but I'm also going to do some roasted Brussels sprouts with pecans and dried cranberries as well. So looking forward to making that and spending time with them. Going to be some football involved, watching, not playing. I'm way too old for that. Other than that, opening presents, I suppose, but that's less my enjoyment and more about just spending time with friends and family that matter. So there you go. So that's what I think mine's going to look like. What's yours going to look like, Yoda? All right, let's see. Oh, Vince, happy Thursday, I guess, for you over in China. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out, dude. Boy, you burn it at both ends to be able to make these streams. I want you to know, seriously, Vince, I appreciate it. Truly, I do. The fact, all of y'all that either stay up late, get up early, whatever it is. Hell, those in the States that are, not working right now when they should be working. I appreciate your time, because you don't have to be here right now. Thanks, y'all. Y'all rock. John says, some games debut with a lot of hotness or hype, and after a short time, some people really start to sour on the game, especially Terraforming Mars, Root to some extent. In general, what's your opinion on what happens to cause the drastic shift? It could be a number of things, and I don't think there's one hard, fast rule that fits every game. I think there is some tendency to be a contrarian in some people, obviously not everybody, but I think some people just call it hipster, call it emo, call it whatever, like don't want to be, enjoy the cool games right now, so it's cool to not like them. So that's some aspect of it for some people. I think some games, as people dive deeper into games, they start to see the flaws past the hype and the excitement of ZOMG. This is a cool new shiny. And I think that's also where the value in the reviews come from, playing a game multiple times so you can kind of delve into the depth a little bit there, and instead of just the shiny new hotness of, oh wow, this is really cool. I think there's some delving into it there. I think there is so much churn and burn nowadays. There's so many games that it's just human nature. I think some of that is as well. And I'm sure there is other aspects to that that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, but those are the things that come to mind as to why I think that happens. That happens across the board, right? It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a car, a movie, a book, a song, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, take a look at like a song like Despacito, right? Which has billions with a B views on YouTube. It was the hottest thing since hot, and then now it's not. Or that kind of comedy parody song, What Did the Fox Say? Sorry for putting that back in your head. That was awesome until it wasn't. You know what I mean? So whatever. I think some of it's human nature, and some of it is just people actually moving past that initial excitement and looking at the game as a whole. But if you take a game like Root as example, there is still a lot of people out there, myself included, that thoroughly enjoy that game and think it's a fantastic game for what it is. Is it perfect? No. No game is. But I think for what it tries to do, I think it does an amazing job at that. But it's not going to be for everybody. So I think also when you have these massive, huge hype games or popular games, whatever term you wish to use there, I think it reaches a broader audience than what the core audience was intended to be. And so when it reaches people who are not that core audience, there is some pushback because they're like, oh, hey, this isn't what I thought it would be. I mean, again, using Root, cute, cuddly, adorable little meeples, and it's actually a pretty mean game, pretty cutthroat Wargame-ish, coin-esque game. So I think that also is what not everyone expected it to be. So I think there's some aspect of that as well. But anyway, not to belabor the point, I think that kind of covers it pretty well. And like I said, I'm sure there are some other aspects to that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. Rainer, pineapple, pizza topping or not? Dude, anything can go on a pizza. You want to put sushi on a pizza? You want to put salmon roe on a pizza? Do you? I'm not one to judge. I'm okay with that. If you're asking for me personally about pineapple, yeah, I'm down with pineapple. Come at me. Fight me. I'm good. Come on. Not you specifically, Rainer. You're too nice. That wouldn't happen. We're boys. But, you know. Todd asks, what's my take on Teotihuacan? Teo, going forward. Is falling short on pre-orders. It's unfortunate, and that's a bummer. And I don't know. I don't know the details. I haven't kept up with it, to be honest. I've heard some rumblings that there is one online store that either didn't get any or didn't get enough. I don't know the particulars. That's a bummer because it's a really good game and super popular. And here's the thing. They did, and this isn't, I'm not trying to defend NSKN/Board and Dice now. I'm just being a realist on this. They didn't do a Kickstarter, so this is a traditional publisher or traditional publishing track that they chose to use. And this kind of goes back on what John's comment was, that this was a super popular game as far as hype and everything else goes, had a really low price point, MSRP, the whole 9 yards. But you still don't know how many to print. And it's not like as the hype increases, you can then put in your order. The order's been put in months and months in advance. So should they have anticipated more? I guess you could make that argument, or you could find fault there, maybe. But from what I've heard, there are more printings being done. But again, logistics takes time. You have to actually place the order. You got to get a window in which to print. It's got to get on the slow boat from China, and it's got to get to wherever it's going to. So these things take time. So they underestimated the popularity, which is a bummer because sometimes that kills that hype wave, right? Or that buzz, that hotness wave. So it's unfortunate both for the folks, the gamers that want to play it, but also for them because I'm sure they like money and would like to make more money by selling more copies, right? It's not like they're like, ha ha ha, we're going to short demand on purpose and make it scarce and piss everybody off. My guess, knowing everybody involved, my guess is that wasn't the plan. So it's unfortunate is what it is, but I'm sure they're doing everything in their power to remedy it. I mean, take a look. Another example would be Splatter and how Food Chain, it went, what, 8 printings, I think, so far? There's no way they could have anticipated that kind of demand. And NSKN at the time, now Board and Dice, they've never had a game this popular. They couldn't have anticipated this big a demand. So, you know what? A growing publisher, and I would include Splatter in this for the example of Food Chain Magnate, I think being reasonable and looking at it from instead of, oh, I want the game, trying to remove yourself from the position or from that position and looking at it from well, this sucks. That's unfortunate, but you know what? I can kind of see how this could happen. And you know what? They're a growing publisher. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that this wasn't done on purpose, and hopefully they plan better in the future. Or well, no, that's not even fair, because how could they have planned for this? There's no way that the anticipation for this game would be. There's no way that they would know it's this big, right? So yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. I would be willing to give the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, now try and learn from this, and as long as you learn from this, then okay. Growing pains, God knows I've gone through them with this show. Lots of lessons being learned all the way through yesterday, so through today even. So yeah, there's that. Kurt says, super hype for Underwater Cities going into it. What is your expectation level for it? It was really high. It's somewhat tempered now. It's a very good game. It's well designed from what my experience so far, which is limited, mind you. But it's a long game, and I don't know if it's too long. But we'll talk about this more tomorrow night during the roundtable with for Underwater Cities. Okay, cool. Oh boy, here we go. And this is why these last 2-3 hours. Jonathan says, I got a quick one. I'm going to be on the Cape next week, but it may be in Boston one day. Any advice on nice FLGSs to stop in and see? I got to be honest with you, Jonathan. There's only one that I know by name so far, and there are a few different locations. I don't know exactly where they're at, so I apologize. I'm still new here. But Battleground is one that I can recommend. They have a really good selection of games. They support the local cons here in the area, and everybody I've met that is associated with Battleground is really, really good, and really really kind and knowledgeable, and they care. So yeah, Battleground would be the one that I would recommend on that. A moment, real quick. All right, cool. All right, let's see. Miko. Hey, what's up, Miko? How you doing? Beside the people, what do you miss most about Denver? Man, okay, the people, far and foremost, or far and away. I miss my friends. I'm not going to lie. I really, really do. Quick aside, the people in Boston have been far more warm and welcoming than I ever anticipated. I thought everyone here was going to be less friendly than they have been. And I'll be honest, there's a term, if you're at work, go ahead and turn your speakers down now for a moment. Mass holes for Massachusetts. I'll be honest, I haven't met any of them. Now, I've driven, right? And I'm a city boy, so the city driving is fine. You know, whatever, that's just city driving. But literally, to a person, everybody has been very kind and welcoming. So I was pleasantly surprised about that. But as far as Denver, I miss the Mexican food. Not going to lie, I miss my old haunts for Mexican food. And I guess this goes back to the people, but not what you would think. I used to work in the service industry. I used to wait tables and work in restaurants a lot growing up. And after 9/11 and everything, after I got out of the Marine Corps and couldn't get a job in aviation. And so good service is a really, really big deal to me when I go out to eat, regardless of where it is. And I'm a really big diner fan. And I have found a few really good diners here in town or in the surrounding area that I really enjoy. The people are awesome. But I miss the wait staff at a couple of the diners that I used to frequent. But again, that's the people, right? I guess. And I miss, honestly, if you were to put a gun to my head and say, what is the one thing that I miss the most about Denver? I miss I don't know if you'd call it roughly monthly hangouts and breakfasts with Kleiker. Yeah. He and I would go to a restaurant that was up north of where I live by about 25 minutes and have a fantastic breakfast that would last 2-3 hours. And he was kind of my safe space, my guru in a sense, my very good friend who my confidant, right, in that regard. And I really miss that more than anything, I think. I miss the house. I miss it less than I thought. I'm not going to talk about Asher because I really don't feel like crying today. Yeah, so there you go. So the Mexican food, let's go with that. All right, other than the people. All right, Ollie, have you confirmed what cons you are going to this year yet? I have not. The obvious ones are definitely, well, obvious. HeavyCon, Essen. I shouldn't do this on the spot. Probably Gen Con. Probably Origins. Gamma, because it's a trade show more than, that's an industry thing, so kind of got to go to that. I'm going to... Yeah, I can say it. I'm going to the Gathering. The Gathering of Friends. That is one I'm looking forward to. Or at least I'm hoping. If everything plays out well, let's put it that way. And some others. So I'm not exactly sure, but we're definitely going to be considerably less than last year. There's definitely going to be a number of those that just aren't going to make the cut this year. So my focus is on the show in 2019. So sorry, don't take it personally if I'm not coming back to a convention that I went to this year. So I apologize about that. There's going to be a rotating basis of some regional cons that we'll be going to, but I don't know what those are going to be or what rotation that's going to be on. Justin asks, have you had a chance to play any of the Essen pickups other than the ones I've streamed already? There have been a few I've played. I'm looking over at some of the games over here. Played Newton, played Keyflow, and there's a few others so far. There have been, yep. Yeah, and everything that I will have played, Essen or otherwise, will either get covered to some degree on the podcast or will be streamed. And I say to some degree because if it's a really bad game, I'm not going to spend the time doing a full episode on that. And if it's a bad game, not if I don't like it, but if it's a bad game. Does that make sense? I hope. So, yeah, a number of these games are going to get covered both on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. So, all right, Ross says, I'm newish to the channel and podcast. Love it, by the way. Appreciate it, Ross. Thank you. But haven't figured out yet what the whole Glory to Rome thing is. So what's the story? If you go to the website, heavycardboard.com, and you go to the FAQ, there's a 24-page FAQ. Rob, God bless him, one of our mods, took the time to write up the FAQ, and he actually explains all these things. But The Glory to Rome board, which I am still trying to find the stickers for. That's why it hasn't gotten updated. And yes, Rob, I know there are stores that sell them, but I own them. I have them. I'm trying to not spend superfluous money by buying stickers that I already have. So I'm trying to find those. Anyway, it is horribly out of date. Anyway, the Glory to Rome board is... We try and keep the live streams more or less work-friendly, safe for work. I don't really want to necessarily say family-friendly because things do slip on occasion, but we try. And so the game Glory to Rome, it has a card called the Legionnaire. And if you play the Legionnaire, you can... Rome demands some sort of resource. And if you don't have that resource, you show them your hand and you exclaim Glory to Rome, i.e. go fornicate with yourself. And instead of us saying go fornicate with yourself, but less PC on the streams, we say Glory to Rome. And that all started from Sweater Mike's contribution there, and it has lived and will continue to live on the show. And that is what the Glory to Rome is. So there you go. So in other words, how many exclamations of upsettedness at one another get claimed? It's between us. It's from viewers to usually me for making them buy them a game, or making them buy a game because it sounded really good, looked really good, whatever, or would be a good match for them. Or from us to previously to Comcast whenever the internet went down on some very, very big streams. And knock on wood, Verizon Fios has been spectacular so far since moving to Boston. So let's hope that continues. There you go. All right, Adam, good question. I know that you still haven't played many of the Essen releases to make a definitive statement. That is true. But what are your thoughts on 2018 as a whole? Personally, but gaming-wise, what I anticipate you meaning, wasn't great, wasn't terrible. It was a year on a pile of years. How's that? So far. Still could be surprised. What is my favorite 18xx game? Rincey 983 asks. Probably 1822 still. I like the variety. I like the how different the games play out each game, depending on the order of everything, as well as just the gameplay itself, even though it doesn't have a ton of stock market shenanigans. And I am anxious to get back into it. I know that that Joe Huber's favorite is 2038, which is the one set in space. So I'm looking forward to playing that with him. And we're going to stream it sometime, hopefully in the next couple of months, once I can lock down a schedule to get that streamed with Joe. So looking forward to that. We're just going to call you Sack because I can't seem to figure out how to pronounce this. Are you planning on switching to 4K streaming? I think the clarity that it gives from the top view of the boards would be awesome. It's something that I'll consider. That means that everything that we have in here camera-wise would have to get replaced. This camera, the main camera, those are $2,000 cameras. The PTZ camera would have to be a 4K camera. And I'll be honest, I don't know how many people can stream 4K. I know my internet can handle it as far as sending it out to y'all, but I don't know how many people out there can make use of that, because a lot of people struggle to do 1080p as is, which is what everything is streamed in currently. So down the road, sure, but anytime in the immediate or near future, not in the plans as of right now. So I don't know if there's a huge demand for it, then that's something that we consider. But as it is right now, I just don't see it being the case. But always look into the future, always looking to improve. So yes. Khan asks, is there any plans for a stream for one of the coin games? You know, funny you ask. I talked to one of the fine gentlemen over at GMT Games, and along with Space Corp and a couple of other GMT games that are going to be sent that you're going to see streamed and or reviewed over the next couple of months here on the show. One of them is Colonial Twilight, and Colonial Twilight is the likely first coin game that's going to get streamed, for the simple fact that it being a 2-player stream, that I think would be easier to fit on the camera with our current limitations, but also to be able to make it more approachable, I think would be a good way to put it. I'm hoping, at least. So that's one of the games that's going to be coming here in the next couple of weeks. So yes, to answer your question. All right. Matt asks, any update on whether there will be a HeavyCon in 2019? Yes, I have every intention of hosting HeavyCon in the Boston area in 2019. I'm trying to catch up with things here by the end of the year, and God willing, knock on wood again, everything is caught up. I will be locking down a location here as soon as possible and getting the information out to those that attended last year, those that are invited back, as well as the new invitees. So if all goes well, that should happen sometime in January. Okay? So yes, the plan is yes. Ali says, some of us are so dedicated to this channel, I'm pretending to work at my desk like a champ. Keep it up, Ali. Keep it up. And hopefully the headphones are in. Oh, awesome. Yoda says, my holiday will be visiting my parents, teaching CO2, Second Chance, Tales of the Northlands, Sagas of Nag and Nog, and also a nice Christmas dinner and some presents. Fantastic. That sounds like a wonderful Christmas, so enjoy. Alexander says, my holidays will be 100% solo gaming and making audio and video content about games. I hope that it's enjoyable, and and that's the reason. If so, then absolutely glad to hear it. Ali, CO2, would you recommend it competitive or cooperative? I'm not really super keen on co-op, so competitive. But I'm not sure that I'm the fairest to ask in that respect. Ross says he's really excited for Underwater Cities, my most anticipated game right now, because I love Pulsar. Have you played that? If so, thoughts? Funny story on that. I originally was going to play it early last year. Paul Grogan, though, said, no, don't play it yet. If you haven't, I want to be able to teach you it using my teaching style. Don't teach all the rules up front and just roll into it. And it didn't happen. So it kind of got lost in the shuffle because of that. So I haven't played it yet, but I would like to. And the fact that you're so high on it, Russ, tells me I probably should. So, all right. Ooh, good question, Rainer. You haven't asked this before. If you had to choose, would you replace both hands with ladles or slotted spoons? I choose neither, but assuming that's not one of the options. Ladles, I could pick things up, I could hold stuff better. Slotted spoons, I could dig and shake all the dirt out, sand. I would need to know, could the ladles, so if they're my hands, I could move them like this, so it's kind of like my hand is, like this. If so, then I would go ladle, I think. I could learn to shake the sand or dirt or whatever. But it would be harder to hold things with two hands. Slotted spoon. Boy, that's a tough call. I'm going with ladle, but I'm not married to it. All right, John says a question from Slack, and I was going to address this either way, John. Would it be possible to have download links to the podcast on the HC website? Good news. I talked to Waymost, the behind-the-scenes guru when it comes to the website and all things technical regarding heavy cardboard, who is invaluable. Thank you, Waymost. And he said likely within the next 2 weeks, a few things can happen. One, the calendar will be up on the website, so you guys will have a one-stop shopping. If you don't go in Slack, you don't go on social media, meaning Twitter, Facebook, you don't hit the guild, whatever. All of it's going to be compiled, the schedule on the website, so there's that. That should be coming in the next 2 weeks. Also, once things get completely transferred over to the new server, then we should have a download. You should be able to download all the podcasts from the website, but also, and this is, I'm not promising, but it looks likely that we're going to be able to either have a archive feed, because right now Squarespace, which is our current hosting site, has a 100 limit on feeds, or a 100 item limit on the feed, on the Heavy Cardboard podcast feed. So you can only go back 100 things, whether it's episodes, et cetera, et cetera. Hence why we cut out and did the secondary, the secondary feed. We're hoping to have an archive one to where you can go back and listen to the entire catalog going back to episode 1. So hopefully that also should be in around that time frame. So I would ask a little bit of grace in that, but that's what I was told this morning. So keep that in mind. All right. Aiden asks, have I considered following in the footsteps of Dice Tower and to allow contributors to add on to the channel on my behalf? Additional reviewers, maybe game teachers, etc. Maybe, I wouldn't say following in the footsteps of, but have I considered that? Yes. Is it something that's on the immediate horizon? No. I got to be honest. I'm trying to get everything settled down and on a regular schedule and a good baseline now that I'm getting settled here in Boston. I want to focus on that first and foremost before I try and overextend and try and start up too many new things. Let me just get back to a good baseline, and then we'll revisit this down the road. So is it possible in the future? Yes. Is it going to be coming anytime immediate? No, but it's possible down the road. Hey, Tony, welcome. He says, is it too early to say Merry Christmas? I don't think so. I mean, we have, 6 days? I think it's in the 12 days of Christmas window. Happy holidays, whatever it is you choose. Tiago says, holidays here will be me struggling with the heat in the city. Where are you, Tiago? Is that Brazil? Maybe? Is that, I don't know. Where are you? Philip asks, would you teach the short game without aggression until the end of age 2 for Through the Ages to non-heavy gamers, or would you teach them the full game straight? Honestly, I would say the full game straight, but you could always end it early. There was a really big, interesting discussion over in the 18XX channel over in Slack about playing games to completion, which 18XX games are notorious for. You don't actually run out the string the entire way when it's a foregone conclusion. And that kind of branched into bigger questions about other games. Why do we play them to completion when they're already decided? Now, if there is large endgame scoring, et cetera, obviously you do that. But I thought it was an interesting idea, because if it's already a foregone conclusion, what is it about us? Why do we feel compelled to finish the game if it's already known? Why don't we end it early? Okay, good game. Cheers, and move on to the next game and not waste time running out the string. I don't know. Anyway, not to go too far off that tangent, though, is I would say teach the full game and just end it early if it is a time issue. For me, I don't think that. Yeah, I think that's the better version of the game. I think that would be fine, in my opinion. But again, I kind of have a bit of a skewed view on things considering where I am and what it is I do. So I'm curious. I would open it up to everybody over in chat. What do you guys think about that? I don't like cooked pineapple. I like grilled pineapple more, though, Kabuki Kid. Have I tried 18 Lilliput yet? Have not yet. Sorry, Michael, but it's on the list. It's actually sitting right over here. Hey, Felix. Christopher, another Age of Steam stream coming up. If so, any maps you were considering? Boy, this is going to touch on a bigger topic, so hold on one second. That bigger topic is what to stream when, because there is a vocal minority that is like, no more Age of Steam. And some people see it as a cop-out for streaming Age of Steam should be, it's taking up time when another game could be streamed instead of the same game but with a different map. I think that's fair. Not discounting that, but then again, there is also a large contingent or a vocal minority of Age of Steam fans. So I'm trying to space them out a bit. So there's nothing on the immediate horizon, but that doesn't mean there can't be one in 3 weeks. That could absolutely happen. As far as what maps, I kind of want to do something a little exotic. If I can get some experienced Age of Steam players for the stream. And if not, then something more basic. I know that's kind of a really broad non-answer. I apologize. But no, nothing specific that I have looked into. Like, ooh, I want to stream this map type thing. There are plenty of them out there. There are, 160, 180, however many. So I would like to do another, yes. But I'm trying to space them out a bit. Ollie, I have very strong feelings on this, but everybody is unique or everybody has their own opinions, I should say. Ali asks, what's your opinion on rules explanations? Would you say all the rules should be taught or just a quick overview that gets the game going and learn as you go? I hate learn as you go. I detest learn as you go. Can't stand it at all, even a tiny bit. Nope, it's just not for me. Does that mean it's wrong? No, that means for Edward, it's wrong. So I don't teach that way. I teach how I want to learn games, and that's a plus with the live teachings, the teaching videos and playthroughs, obviously, but the teaching aspect of it. It's twofold why I do the majority of the teaches all front-loaded. One, that's how I prefer it. And number two, to be able to, so folks can use it as a reference. And so I would rather have it all in one place as opposed to, oh yeah, 3.5 hours later, here's this other part. No, I don't want people to have to do that, time stamped or not, doesn't matter. Yeah, I'd rather just front load it. So yeah, that's my very strong feelings on that, Ollie. But if you prefer, like Paul Grogan, who, a good friend of mine, he prefers just getting people into and playing as quick as humanly possible. Cole is another of that view. Paul, mostly, he said, because he does a lot of his teaching demos at conventions and such. So that's what works the best for conventions, because you can't do a 45-minute rules teach for a game at a convention. That just can't happen. So I get that. I totally understand it. I just hate it. I'm not a fan at all, because I feel like I'm making uninformed decisions, and my decisions now have far less agency because of the fact that I don't know why it is I'm doing what I'm doing. So, yeah, that, again, my opinion. So that's me. Gaurav asks, which of the old basement streams are you considering redoing? I guess all of them is the ideal answer, but which are higher priorities than others? If not all, the majority of them, for sure. Some of those teaches were really bad. Monopoly's not going to be done. I will retire the heavy cardboard Monopoly champ. Sorry, that will not happen again. But yeah, I obviously would have to go back and look at the list of games and see what all. But I don't know that I've looked into them close enough as far as giving some priority over others. Obviously, if I think the game is better than others, it's probably going to get a higher priority than games that aren't maybe as strong. But yes, I definitely want to redo most, if not all, of the basement streams. Go, Rav. Jason asks, have you seen a hit to your Patreon numbers lately? I'm going to be canceling all my subs in Patreon due to Patreon's recent actions. Curious if you've seen it. Wow, it's a bigger question. Let me get comfortable and get something to drink, and then I will answer that. Finish up the first cup of tea. All right. So let's get into this. So, Jason, all right. Have you seen a hit to your Patreon numbers? I'm going to be canceling all my subs in Patreon due to Patreon's specific recent actions. Curious if you've seen it. So we'll handle this. It's two different questions. Okay. I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, in an hour when I get down to the rest of the chat, you can answer and tell me if I'm assuming correctly. So apparently, Patreon has taken a stance against, you know what? I'm going to tiptoe on this because I haven't done a ton of research. I heard about this in the last 24 hours about Patreon, and some people are saying they're infringing upon free speech, so on and so forth, and First Amendment, being able to have a Patreon account and be a creator of content regardless of what the content is. And Patreon has said, nope, not everything's going to be allowed. So I haven't decided on anything on that yet. Number one, as far as where I stand on this, obviously me being a Marine, I have defended the First Amendment and people's right to say and think and do, I wouldn't say do, but say and think whatever it is that they wish to do so. Doesn't mean that there won't be repercussions from those actions. Just because you have the right doesn't mean you should in some cases. And I'm not pointing at specific things. That said, everybody's free to make their own decisions on things, right? Whether it's regarding Patreon or anything else. That said, if you don't like Patreon's specific model, either the monthly thing or Patreon stance, I'm not going to speak to anyone else. I'm going to speak about myself and Heavy Cardboard. If you look down at right down below me right there, it says you can go to pledgehc.com and support the show there. You can support the show 3 different ways. One, through Patreon, right? If you go to pledgehc.com, there are 2 buttons. One takes you to the show store and one takes you to Patreon. Patreon, well, we just covered that and your opinions on that. The show store, you have 2 options there. One, you could become an annual patron. What that means is if you wanted to give at the base level, which is $5 on Patreon, but you don't want to support through Patreon, you can purchase an annual patronage, which is 1 year, so 12 months, $5 a month, $60. You do that, you get all the perks and all the benefits of being a monthly patron on Patreon. So that's the first obvious direct correlation. The second one is you can go and buy swag. I have been horribly slow and catching up with the orders. That's what I was doing till 3 o'clock this morning. And once I'm done with this, I'll be back upstairs finishing and trying to get those out to everybody. So hopefully going forward, once I've caught up, I should be able to have those out within 48 hours. So you could support the show by buying swag and merch, as Isaac likes to say. So those are your options for that. Now, as far as have I seen a a hit to the Patreon numbers lately. Um, there's ebb and flow every month. Every month, there's always that little bit of apprehension when the first of the month rolls around. Are people going to all quit on the last day of the month? And is anybody going to stay for the first? And then there are people who you have to worry about credit cards getting, they have to update their information. And if they don't do that, Patreon is a lot more stressful, I feel like, than Kickstarter. Kickstarter, at least, is a 1 month and you're done and you get everything and done. But I feel like through Patreon, it's more of a community. And it's been the choice that I made a long, long time ago. The direction that I wanted to do this, that kind of goes in line with building a community, which I feel has been more good than not, and more positive than not. And I feel like done a pretty good job. Myself, Amanda previously, Tony before that, and all the herd members. I think that has been pretty good. So have I seen a hit to the numbers? I mean, it's a roller coaster. I mean, you guys see this number go up and down every stream. And sometimes you get a big influx. Sometimes you get a number of losses. And it could be something I've said, something I've done. It could be people don't like the content, or not enough content, or not the right content. But on the other side of it, it could be financial. Maybe they just can't support right now, and that's okay. It's a luxury. I appreciate the fact that people choose to do this and choose to support. I want people to support because they want to support. They like the content. They like what it is that we're doing here on the show. So have I seen a drop in numbers? Yes and no. I mean, there's always the influx. Plus, let's face it, during the move, it's been a tough transition for me. It's funny, Waymost told me to plan for the worst, because it never goes as smooth as you think it's going to. And yep, you were right, dude. You were 100% right. It's been a struggle to keep the podcast going regularly, and I've tried to get the streams. There's always a line in which between regular live streams and sponsored live streams, and how many of those to do, and walking that line, because there's a lot of folks out there that really enjoy getting the live streams to help them make informed decisions about the Kickstarter live streams or sponsored streams that we do. But there's also a number of folks who feel like we shouldn't be doing them, or are doing too many. And so it's always that fine line. So it's always really, really hard to balance everything. The podcast, the live streams, the podcast, reviews versus con coverage versus interviews versus mechanism highlights, designer highlights, possibly publisher highlights, although that skirts a line that I haven't crossed yet, that I don't know how I feel about. So that, and fortnightly versus weekly, which I'll be honest, as long as I am doing this by myself, weekly's not in the plans anytime soon. It's just, there's just not enough hours in the day. Even if I worked 90-hour weeks, there's just not enough hours in the day. So going to a fortnightly podcast. So there's always that juggling act, right? And the podcast is a lot in and of itself. And then the live streams, what to live stream, how many to live stream, how many are, it's funny, lunchtime, or do we not do a lunchtime? Are we taking away time from bigger games? And so and then sponsored live streams, and how many to do and what ones to do. It's a juggling act that never ends. And trying to... Martin Fowler is a patron and a friend of mine now, and he lives about 7-8 minutes away. And he told me something really important recently that is really good, and it's good advice, that one or two, a small handful of comments here or there shouldn't sway you from your path. But if you start to see a trend, that's when you should start giving it credence. And it's really hard to juggle that line, to walk that line, and not to react to a single positive or a single negative. And it's always easier to react to the negative than it is to the positives, because what is it that psychologists say? It takes 9 or 10 positives to offset, I think it would be a good way to put it, a negative. So it's a constant struggle. It really is. And sometimes I do a better job of that than others, but know this: the show is my life right now. This is all I do. So I am doing the best that I know how to do, and hopefully folks, there are far more folks that enjoy and are seeing value in what it is that I'm doing and what we as a community and we as a heavy cardboard herd are doing than what we're not doing. So that's what I'm shooting for. And if I'm doing that, and that is the case, then every day when I look at myself in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth, I can look at myself saying, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm good with this. I'm okay with this. And if that's the case, then yeah, I'm good with this. So does that mean I'm not going to constantly struggle still? No, absolutely not. It is that constant struggle, but I've chosen this and I enjoy it and I'm passionate about it and I love doing this. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean it's not more work than anything I've ever done in my entire life. But I'd rather do this than what I was doing or just about anything else that I can think of. So I'm fortunate to be in the position I'm in. And I just hope that in the end, no, not even in the end, on a daily basis, I'm doing it more right than I'm not. So, wow, that was a really long answer to a not long question, Jason. So hopefully I addressed that right as far as hitting the right notes, as far as, or getting the answering the questions that you meant. All right. So there you go. All right. Okay. And really don't want to spend an hour talking about this, but Vince says, I understand in the abstract what monk mode means in terms of you focusing on heavy cardboard and adopting an ethos. But in concrete terms, in what ways will heavy cardboard be better off, different in a month or two from now as a result of you having been in monk mode? Regularity as far as consistency and output of content. That is first and foremost. Secondly, once I get caught up on everything, being shipping of orders, shipping of Patreon rewards, and getting all the other behind the scenes stuff that I'm horribly behind on, and getting all of that caught up. Now it's just the day-to-day upkeep. And so what does it mean? It means finishing the aesthetic of the studio. First off, it means being able to focus on bigger games and dedicating more time off stream to playing the bigger games and being able to get the bigger games live streamed and reviewed, because war games take longer. They require a bigger investment. They require other people bigger investment in time as well. So being able to do all of those things, as well as bringing back the stuff that I wanted, that we talked about before the move, like on caffeine and stuff like that, and just getting everything consistent, regular, and getting caught up to where I can focus on the core of the content, which is medium and heavy games, both streamed as well as on the podcast on a regular basis that people have come to know and expect. That is the core idea of monk mode. And hopefully I'm going to be able to achieve that. So I hope that answers that, Vince. Kabuki Kid, do you have a biggest disappointment game of 2018? Not yet. maybe I can talk about that more around the Golden Elephant time frame. So that'd be maybe around April, May time frame, because I want to be able to get to the games that I'm still anticipating and excited about for this year. And also on that note, biggest disappointment, I try really hard not to get too excited and too ramped up and stoked for specific games anymore, because I feel like that does a disservice to the game, and I feel like I have an obligation to, as a professional reviewer now in a professional media, to try and be game agnostic in a sense. And so I try not to get too hyped up on a game, but man, it's hard at times, right? I mean, City of the Big Shoulders, Pipeline, Teo, Mr. President, when that comes out, stuff like this. I'm still a gamer, I'm still human, so it still bleeds in somewhere, right? So I try, but it still happens. So I can't answer that yet, but I will try and address that down the road. So remind me of that, okay, KK? Gorov, any updates on the Golden Elephant nominees for 2018? Nope. They get announced in April. We'll talk about it then. Oh, okay. Circling back, Rayner says, he says, being from Board and Dice, he agrees with what I said regarding the backlog on Teo. So, okay. All right, Vincent says, morning, Edward. Morning, Vincent. Or, well, by the time I got to this, afternoon. A couple of small questions, if that's okay. That is okay. Do you like to play any skirmish games? If so, have you checked out Osprey's skirmish games? What are your thoughts and plans for HeavyCon 2019? Skirmish games. More tactical than I tend to like, but that doesn't mean I won't try them. So I don't know, but I will, you know what? I will, give me a moment. I'll make a note. I'll check into it. How's that? Okay. And thoughts and plans for HeavyCon 2019? Kind of already addressed that. So hopefully you can go back and hear that. But the plans are HeavyCon is happening, and I'll make announcements hopefully in January for it. Hey, Brian. Brian says, if found any potential wargamers there in Boston to help with streams. Yes, but you know what? You're welcome to come out and help out anytime you want as well. But yes, there are a number of folks here that are willing to help out with that, as well as that are wargamers. So yeah. Yeah, so look for those coming. I mean, Maria was a good start, right? Philip, what are your some of your most anticipated games of 2019? Mr. President, still. City of the Big Shoulders is still, because that's going to be coming out in 2019. We'll stick with those two as two of my biggest ones. There you go. Gorov says, everyone in the Boston area is welcoming until you start talking trash about the Patriots. I don't talk trash about them. It's an amazing run. I mean, it's unlike anything that we've seen in our lifetime. My Cowboys didn't even have this good a run in the 90s, or the Steelers, or it's amazing. But man, to be in Boston right now is surreal, because every team is good. And it's been good for a long time. Celtics maybe not entirely during this time, but to have the Red Sox, to have the Patriots, to have the Bruins, and to have the Celtics all do it, this is insane. It's going to end at some point, and just be ready for it when it does end, because it always ends. Always. Brady's getting old. Belichick's getting old. Just happen. It's going to happen. And Felix says Boston and NYC people are awesome. Well, the ones I've encountered so far have been. See, Kabuki Kid gets it. A waitress at my local diner left after being there for like 15 years. Definitely miss seeing her every time. See, exactly. You form a relationship, right? Oh, okay. Michael also back says Battleground. Felix says the heavy cardboard deep cuts. That was awesome. The panel that I took part in at PAX Unplugged, which the audio I know was pretty rough. I apologize. Did the best we could with no audio engineer there. So if you go to heavycardboard.com or listen to it on your favorite podcast player, that is there for y'all to listen to. Manjula? Is that how you pronounce that? I apologize. Manjula or Manjula? I'm not sure. But have you had a chance to play Magna Storm yet? If so, what are your thoughts about it? Have not, but Fierlein Spiele is going to be sending us a copy, so just haven't gotten a copy of it yet. Rainer asks, is SaltCon on your rotation of regional cons? Takes place 2 weeks before Gamma, though in the same general part of the country, that might not be the most convenient. It's possible that it makes the rotation. Probably unlikely for 2019, but it definitely could be a regional con that makes the cut. Sorry, Rainer. Vince, when can we expect a playthrough of PAX Emancipation? I remember you posted a pic of you reading the rulebook on the flight back from Essen, so it must be soon, right? Hopefully soon. I'm not going to commit to any specific time frames, but yeah, it's on the to-do list for games to be streamed for sure. Ooh, that's a tough question, Logan. What's your favorite gaming moment in 2018? Wow. That's a really good question. This might not be the end all be all as far as like, yes, this was it, but the one that comes to mind at least was kind of our playthrough of Brides and Brides. I think might have been because that was such an unexpected experience all the way around, and arguably was my favorite live stream of all time. And whew, maybe that. Let's go with it for now. But that was awfully good. That was a lot of fun. But I'm sure there are others that I just can't think of on the spot. Reynald says, "Hi Edward. I felt let down by Uwe on Record. Apart from your beloved dog in it, yes, it's awesome that Asher is in the game. Did you also feel it did not deliver? Happy to see you fully settled in Boston after a crazy 2018 year. Yeah, you and me both, man. It's been a year, huh, for both of us. All right. I'm glad to hear your mom's doing well. By the way, um, I'll be honest. I've only played the prototype when I played it at LyriaCon. And in fact, I went to the P.O. box this morning before this live stream and I received a package from Renegade. I'm pretty sure that's Record, so I haven't played it other than that. So that said, I can't speak to it. I enjoyed my playthrough of it, of the prototype, but I haven't played the final version. So can we table this and you ask me about it maybe in the next Ask the Elephant? Cool, Reno? Dennis says, I would watch 4K and hope for more 18XX. Okay, thank you for that. And I hope for more 18XX soon, too. Hey, Justin, how long do you need to be a patron and at what level to be listed on the Our Sponsors and Patrons section of the page? About a day normally, but that is woefully outdated and something that's going to get updated this week. That's on my to-do list of things once the shipping is done. All right? Cool? It's actually on my huge brain dump page of to-do list for heavy cardboard. Jason, any chance Reef Encounter is coming up soon? Yeah, I'd say there's a fair to middling chance of that. Yeah. Get ready for game night. I'm at work and have to watch with the sound off. So here. That was for you. All right. What do I want for Christmas? More time. You know, up until about 11 o'clock last night, I could have answered the definitive gift on what it was I wanted for Christmas. What it would have been was the blender carafe for my Jamba Juice blender. Because I have been here since, my stuff has been here since like the 7th or 8th of October, and I haven't been able to find it. And pretty sure I thought it made the move, but haven't been able to find it. And I really miss making my tonics, which are 2 parts apple juice, 1 part pineapple juice, a handful of cilantro, a fair bit of fresh mint, and a jalapeno blended up, made into a drink. And if you choose to make it into an after-hours cocktail, you can absolutely do so. It's spicy. It's refreshing. It's awesome 24/7, 365. And I haven't been able to make it because I don't have a blender carafe. I found it last night. So I'm making some today. So that would have been my number one most wanted thing. I assume we're talking tangible thing, right? PTZ camera. That would probably be the biggest. I'm going realistic here. I'm not asking for a new car. I'm not, but even a PTZ camera, the ones I'm looking at, they're still on the higher end of things. If we're talking tangible, honestly, just time. That's really it. So there we go. Kabuki Kid, ever look at Nemo's War? Not very heavy, but a fun solo or co-op? Yes. In fact, Matt would tell you I have looked at it because I still have his copy because I want to stream that game. Yes. That is absolutely something that's going to happen and one I want to stream as a solo game. Yep. Oh, wow. Dennis says our Christmas tradition is CO2 with non-gamers going for 6 years straight. That's awesome, dude. That's cool. Ethan, is there any game better than Gaia Project? Well, Isaac Childress just released his top handful of games. I knew it would be Gaia Project #1. I enjoy the game, but it's not #1. I would argue Through the Ages is better. We can fight, but hey, you have the right to be wrong. It's okay, Ethan. Vince, how is Gugong held up since you last streamed it? Really digging it. Feels like it deserves more love. I don't have a copy. I have the prototype. I haven't played it since the stream. If we get a copy and we play it, I'll be able to answer that, Vince. Just, we don't have a copy of it. Dutch Yoda asks, it looks like the 750 patron mark is a hurdle. Any plans on how to grow the herd? Monk mode and being consistent. I'm hoping that gets us over the hump. Now, this number, here, I'll let you in on a little secret. This number isn't 100% accurate because we have 88 annual patrons, a number of which have not renewed. So that number is going to drop down come February 1st to a considerably lower number. I'm giving grace until the end of January because things have been a bit chaotic. A bit. Who am I kidding? They've been hella chaotic since May. And I'm hoping that with a couple of months of consistency under my belt, under our belt, that things will level out and be consistent. And people will appreciate that and want to renew the annual patronage. And if not, then that's okay too. Hopefully they enjoy the content. And maybe down the road, in the coming months, maybe do another patron drive that we did a year and a half, 2 years ago. Year and a half ago, I guess. So those two things, but consistency. That's on me, and that's something that the home or the premise and the reason I'm trying to go into monk mode. We don't have a whole lot of travel anywhere for anything coming up, so yeah, that. So that is the immediate goal and the immediate focus. And the goal isn't to get more patrons. Understand that. The goal is to consistently put out quality content that people enjoy and people find useful and that people want to listen to and watch. And if that ends up bringing in more patrons, awesome. If not, then as long as people are enjoying it and I'm able to maintain, I'm good with that too. Obviously, growing it is better, obviously, but yeah, that's not the ultimate focus on things, if that makes sense. That's a really good question, Ross. When will my next top 10 or top 6, top 50, top 100 games be, stream or podcast? That's a really good question. That's something that I can focus, not focus on, let me rephrase that. That's something that I could look into doing in the coming weeks, next couple of months during this monk mode time. I like that idea, as long as there's interest. I mean, people like lists, right? And Dennis, I already touched on base. Is it likely to go back to a weekly podcast? Not for the foreseeable future while I'm doing everything on my own. I don't see that there's enough hours in a day to make that happen. Brian says, wait, only 6 days till Christmas. Crap, I better get shopping. Oh, wait, just kidding. I started last night. Plenty of time. I hear you. Hey, Carmen. How you doing? Will all 2018 HeavyCon attendees receive an invitation to 2019? To be determined on that. Planning similar-ish number attendees and format Memorial Day weekend. The plan is still Memorial Day weekend, yes. The number of attendees will be entirely dictated by the venue size. Assuming it's a comparable size and everything, then it's going to be in the 150 to no more than 200 number. Depending on the venue, it's going to stay in that window. So yeah, okay. All right, I got it right. Tiago says Brazil. Yes. All right, awesome, cool. All right, let's see. Have you considered letting the herd vote on upcoming streams? To some degree, yes. To some degree, no, because I have a feeling that a lot of folks. Let me reword that. Not everything can be an 18xx. Not everything can be a war game. Again, there's only so many hours in the day to be able to prepare for these. Plus, I have to have the people available to do those. So I'm trying to mix and match. So in a limited capacity, yes, that is something that I plan on bringing back for January. Absolutely. Yep. Ross asks, will anyone be able to attend HeavyCon or is it by invite only? Kind of both. It's invite only, so if you don't have an invitation, you cannot attend. However, it is not limited to being a patron. It is not limited to being somebody I know. It's not anything like that. There are 3 rules to being able to get a potential invite to HeavyCon. Number 1, go to heavycardboard.com, and I think it's /HeavyCon, but go to heavycardboard.com. There's a link for HeavyCon, and fill it out. Fill out all the information. Number 2, interact with me throughout the year. And number 3, don't be a douche canoe. Be a good person, meaning be pleasant to be around and be pleasant to game with. As long as you fit those 3 things, then there's a good chance. Keep in mind that the wait list is pretty long at this point, and I'm not trying to blow up the size of HeavyCon. As people cannot or choose not to come back to HeavyCon, or as it slowly expands here or there, that more spots are made available, but it's a limited number each year. So keep that in mind, and I won't make any promises that it's going to be this year or next year, but if you follow those 3 things, you have a good chance of making it at some point, okay? So there's that. James says 1 more vote for less Age of Steam and more 18XX. Sorry. Nothing to be sorry about, James. Yes, James. HeavyCon's been addressed. Railways of Portugal, the Age of Steam map from Vital, I think is what you're talking about, Tiago, the 2-player one. I enjoyed my 1 play of it so far. Yeah, okay. Khan, have you played Space Empire 4X? Have not yet. Actually going to be getting a copy of that along with Talon from GMT. Let me ask you this, Khan. Do you want to stream that with me? Would you be interested? And if so, let's make that happen. Learn as you go is a lot like life, Rainer says. We tend to dislike things that imitate real life too much. This is why there are not a lot of games about vacuuming or doing the dishes, and not a lot being an understatement. Uh-huh. Hey, Joseph says first time live. You're loved your live stream of Through the Ages. Awesome. Welcome. Glad you made it, and thanks. Brent says, I often hear people say I would never play this game with a person who has AP. Are there any games that people would want to play with a person who has AP? Is AP ever a positive term? No. That got me. Thanks for the laugh, Brent. Well played. And Jason, I finally got to that. He says, Patreon, I do plan on doing a different payment option for you in the future. I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I really don't want to I don't want to belabor this, but Franny says Patreon's a private company. They have terms and conditions. If you break those, that's not infringing on free speech. I know of one specific individual who has lost their account, and that person does engage in hate speech. I think that's a fair point, that Patreon is a private company. It is not it's obviously a for-profit company. They take a cut of what it is that my patrons choose to support with. And so that said, they're within their rights to do so. Now, whether or not that's something that we as creators on an individual basis, individual being specific Patreons, and you as individuals, potential or existing patrons of the various creators, everybody has to make their own decision on what it is that they want to support and what is okay with them. So yeah, it's an individual decision that I fully support everybody making their own decisions on one way or the other. And if you disagree with Patreon's model or Patreon's stance on these things, understand that just because it's the platform that I've chosen to use over the course of the last, coming up on, what, 2-3 years, I would ask that you choose another option, which, as I mentioned before, pledgehc.com. There are 3 options to support the show, so that's one way to do it. Another, honestly, is liking and subscribing down below right now. That stuff helps the show. Liking, because it the algorithm for YouTube, it helps raise visibility, whether it's this or the live streams or whatever. And then subscribing, obviously the subscription numbers help, right? But also it helps you guys because you get notified whenever I go live. So if you're not watching the weekly look ahead on Sundays, oh, hey, Heavy Cardboard's live. And if it's something you want to watch, it reminds you. So there you go. So those ways to do it. Ross, any chance those awesome poker chips used on Power Grid streams will be available to purchase? Would love either those or some mini poker chips with denominations to replace money in games. Potentially. Poker chips are really heavy to ship, which means they're very expensive to ship. And getting foil stamped heavy cardboard ones the thought has been, or the idea has been brought up a number of times, but feasibility of that and shipping costs not being prohibitive, I don't know how realistic that will be, and so to be determined on that. Joseph asks, other than 18xx, what would you consider a heavy game? Games that have a large number of meaningful decisions in them is a heavy game. I mean, we have the criteria that we use in our reviews, right? We have, obviously, length of game is to a smaller degree, but there's also the amount of planning that goes into it. I'm tired. I apologize. Hold on. The rules overhead, the lack of luck in randomness in a game, as well as the other factors that I mentioned. Plus, how long does it take to get the game? Because there are some games that are far more obscure, looking at you, Cole, looking at you, Phil, that are really hard to understand. And I think Jess brought this up in the Maria stream, and I think this is a really good example of one of the core principles of what makes a game heavy is, okay, I heard the rules, I understand the function of how to do things, but the why am I doing these things, is not always clear, and that is what makes part of what makes a game really, really heavy. And I think some of the games that you mentioned, Through the Ages, definitely I would consider a heavy game. Deep, a lot of planning goes involved in that. It is a longer game, which again, to a minor degree, but it does play a part. And while it's not as hard to get it step, but there are different aspects that are really hard about that game and heavy as far as the depth. And there's also the mechanical weight of the game, the rules overhead. So yeah, I think there are plenty of Euros that fit into that category, as well as 18xx and Wargames. And Michael brings up a good point as far as the learn as you go. Says, I prefer that. I learn by doing. Totally understand that. I completely understand that. Hey, new board order. Congratulations, said. So fantasy football was fun. That was a fun league. I wish it was a little bit more talkative. But other than that, I stressed over putting in my lineups more than I probably expected to for it being a small, fun little fantasy football league with patrons. That was a lot of fun, though. Joseph asks, will you be going to WBC this year? Unlikely. And by this year, you mean 2019. That's unlikely to happen. That's going to be one of the ones that gets cut out for 2019. That doesn't preclude it from being in the rotation going forward, just not for 2019. What is Knackebrud? Rainer, I assume that is Swedish. It says, I'm eating some of that in your honor, Edward. Okay. Philip, do you listen to other podcasts and watch other board game YouTube shows? Not a lot anymore, just because it's a time issue. Honestly, I watch a little bit and I listen to a little bit here and there just to be able to keep up with what people are doing out there as far as quality, as far as just directions that they're going. But if I'm watching content, it tends to be to unwind from doing working on heavy cardboard and working on my own show. And so I tend to watch a lot of Andrew Neme's stuff, poker related. Andrew Neme, Brad Owens, Jamin Burton. Those are the three best poker vloggers out there. I thoroughly enjoy all their content. I've met a couple of them when I was out in Vegas. Good dudes. And it's a part of my old life that there's parts of me that misses it. And so I get to live vicariously through some cool dudes. So I watch that. I'll watch shows on Netflix here and there. The Bodyguard, I've been trying to get into, but it just seems so far-fetched at times. So starting to get into that. Rewatching Narcos. And I say watching these, but it's, an episode here. Next week, watch another episode maybe. That type thing while eating, a bowl of nachos that I made, homemade, stuff like that. So, yeah, so not a ton, but I definitely don't watch or listen to things in their entirety. I just don't have the time. But I do pick and choose here and there. And Jason, the Patreon question, you hit on it. I was just hearing other channels getting hit with the decrease in Patreon numbers. Glad it hasn't been severe for you. No, I mean, it's, like I said, it's a roller coaster at times, and it's always stressful. There's always some level of stress when it comes to, did I say something that upset people? Did I not stream the right games this week? Things like that. And because people can leave comments if they wish on the way out the door when they choose to no longer support, and some of them have been on point and some not. But yeah, I think getting back to consistency is going to be the biggest thing for me and the show going forward. Hi, Carrie. Says, what would you suggest to someone that has never seen or tried a war game and want a soft gateway experience under 2 hours? There's one that I have coming from GMT here soon, and this is going to be, I'm hoping, if all plays out well, a stream in January called Hitler's Reich. It's supposed to be a good entry-level war game that plays in about 2 hours. So to be determined on that. You can make a case that something like a Combat Commander or Conflict to Heroes type, it depends. Do you like tactical? Do you like operational? Do you like strategic? So here's what I would ask, Carrie, is Google those three terms: tactical, strategic, and operational level war games, and see which of those appeal to you the most. Then come back. And the next month that we do this, I will have an answer. I will have a good entry-level game for all three of those levels. How's that? Because I'm not really good at on the spot. But yeah, I think, or maybe somebody in chat can float ideas on that. But I will do that. Okay, cool. I even made a note for it. Simon says, just wanted to say, yes, Edward, you were right. The heavy cardboard t-shirt is the softest shirt I've ever owned. I've told people, if it's not the most comfortable shirt you've ever owned, I'll refund your money and I'll take the shirt back. So far, I've had zero takers on that. So I'm glad to hear it, Simon. It's worth the extra cost to put out a high quality product. It's kind of what I try and do with the show in general. So I'm really, really glad to hear that. Awesome. PPK says, okay, I've been staring at it for half an hour now. I still don't get the deeper meaning of the apple on top of underwater cities. Here's what I will say, PPK. It will all become clear down the road. I'll leave it at that. Rob, hey, good seeing you. Hope you're doing well. All right. Hopefully you're having a smooth day at work, Rob, and you're enjoying yourself. Thanks for dropping in, dude. Brad asks, I have a Kickstarter signature edition of Larry Harris's War Room coming this year. That is something I really want to play. Is this the type of war game you will play? I'm going to have to look this up. I don't know. War Room. Give me a minute. I know this makes for awesome TV, but this is the round map one. Eh, I think I saw this at WBC last year and a couple of other, I feel like one other place. Absolutely, that looks interesting. And that's something that I would enjoy taking a gander at and giving a shot to. So absolutely, Brad. I definitely enjoy. I tend to enjoy more strategic level war games than I do tactical, and to somewhere in the middle strategic level. So yeah, that looks right up my alley. Absolutely. Simon asks, knowing how much you love Through the Ages, and I do you have any experience or opinions on some of Lada's other designs, Dungeon Lords, Dungeon Pets, Mage Knight, even Tash Kalar? I have played Dungeon Pets, and that game is far heavier than I thought it would be. I really enjoyed it. Don't have Dungeon Lords, wanting to get a copy because I've heard that it is a excellent game in and of its own right. And Mage Knight, own it. Haven't played it yet. Want to. All those games that I just mentioned, I absolutely want to get on the show. So yeah, I think Vlada is probably one of the most impressive designers in the history of board gaming. That he can do stuff that is stupid simple all the way up to Through the Ages and everything in between. And it's very, very impressive. And he does really good games for the most part. Tosh Kalar, not really appealing to me. Would I stream it? Absolutely. If I had a copy. But yeah, so yeah, all those definitely in the pipeline at some point. There's also that Vince times up with the stance at HeavyCon. Times up with the stance is always a favorite of mine. He is James Nathan is awesome, good human being. Plus, playing games with him is just a lot of fun. So there's also the experience of Rolling Con. That was so. There's a lot. I don't know a single gaming moment, but yeah, the Brides and Bribes one was pretty good. Oh, okay. Vincent said Osprey Games has about a dozen $18 to $20 skirmish games covering a lot of eras and factions, gaslands, cars with guns, etc. Cool. Jonathan, how do you decide which games to present? I hope you haven't answered that too many times. All good. It's a mix of things. It's a mix of what do I want to play. It's a mix of what do the folks in the local group want to stream and want to play. It's a mix of the request geek list and what do people as a whole want to see. It's also input from the patrons on Slack, and it's also and it will once again be uh, voted upon by patrons to some degree as far as 1 or 2 streams a month, what they want to see from a list that is already chosen. And so it's a mix of all those things, and it's availability of players. So it's kind of a mix of all those things on what we choose to stream. And the last thing, which is kind of paramount, is my ability to be able to teach it in a way that I won't embarrass myself, and I won't. I'll do the game justice. Because if you watch the Maria stream, thought the teach went relatively well. The play, maybe a little less, but definitely showed between the three of us, we showed what you should and could do and what you shouldn't do. I think we did that well. But yeah, I have to be able to teach it or have somebody who can teach it and do a good job of that. So all those things come into play as to what we choose to stream. Nick, have you decided on the direction of the podcast as far as possible co-host, or will I continue to do guest spots instead? As of right now, guests is the immediate plan, because again, I'm just trying to get consistent and trying to get a regular schedule down during this monk mode stretch of the upcoming handful of months, and to be determined. Here's the other thing that folks need to realize. Preparing for the podcast takes folks anywhere from 8 to 15 hours to prepare for the podcast. So if I had a regular co-host, that means they have to dedicate that time preparing for the podcast on a bi-weekly basis, on a fortnightly basis. I have to find somebody who both can, is good at it, and enjoys it, and is available every fortnight. Not to mention, they have to be able to play the games enough times to be able to handle that schedule in between those reviews. So it's not like I have a multitude of people to choose from. It's funny, a lot of people were said, oh, wow, Rand did a great job, and he did. And folks said Michael did a really good job, and he did. And folks said Dominic did a really good job, and he did. But none of those people are able or have the interest in doing a co-host for the podcast on a regular basis. So it's not as easy as it might seem on the surface. I obviously am going to, but it's a whole lot easier to get people to do one-offs, or, one every quarter or one every 6 months type thing, than it is every fortnight. So keep that in mind, that it's not necessarily what I want or necessarily what you want. It's all those things I just listed too, Nick. So keep that in mind. Hopefully that answers your question. Hey, Joseph, take care. I realize you left probably an hour ago, but Merry Christmas to you as well. John Zard asks, would you consider a more set routine for playthroughs? By that I mean Throwback Thursdays, where you could replay an older game, 18xx on the first Monday of the month, top voted on by the herd, etc., something like that. I would love. You guys should ask Jess, or anybody that knows me. I like structure. I like routine. And the fact that that isn't the case with this. I'm squeezing my hands here talking about this because this is a big point of contention for me. I would love that. But as you guys know, Heavy Cardboard is not entirely dependent, especially the live streams, on me. I depend on my local game group and the folks here to be available and have interest in doing these things. So I have to be able to accommodate everybody on that. If I don't have people for X, Y, or Z, I can't stream it, right? And if a lot of times, and you guys don't see this because everybody puts on their best face during the streams, but the level of angst and apprehension that some folks have before we go live in the days and minutes, as it were, ahead of live streaming, because they're putting themselves out there for potential ridicule of, oh, you are an idiot. You did this when you should have done that. It's obvious. And when you're actually on the live stream, it can be really stressful for folks. So it can be really hard for folks to do this. So I have to have the availability of people. So I do have a larger pool here from which to pull. So that is something that I'm going to breach with everybody here locally and see if that's something that folks are interested in. And if so, I assure you, John Zard, there are a few things in my life right now that I would like more than that. But that is really high on my list. I would love that. So, yes. Have I considered it? Absolutely. Okay, cool. All right, Vince, have a good night. Hope you're already snoring and drooling into your pillow by the time you see this. Take care. Thanks for hanging out. Still getting over my cold. I've been trying to limit it and swallow the coughs. Awesome, Khan. Glad to hear it on both notes. So it sounds like we're going to do a 3-player Underwater Cities. Khan says he's available for tomorrow's stream. Awesome. And also, sounds like some war games and stuff. So good stuff. Good deal. New Board Order asks, any information on when the Madeira Kickstarter may be coming? Nope. You guys know nothing more than I do. Or I don't know anything more than you do. To be determined. So as I hear, you'll hear. Or if you guys hear something before I do, tell me too, because I would like to know that. Oh, okay. Necker Brood. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing this. Rainer says it's hard bread, rye flour, salt, and water. Okay, crisp bread on Wikipedia. So that sounds like unleavened bread, right? Kind of, right? Is that kind of like almost like just little? I can't think. They're not matzah crackers, but can't think of the name. All right, moving on. Anyway, all right, cool. Are they tasty? I mean, the salt obviously would help, but are they tasty? Yes, Asgard. I absolutely want to get that one on the stream, and I would love to review it. Boy, I gotta say, I am really intimidated by that teach. Not that it's a super heavy euro, but that last round, the game plays so drastically different on what it is you're playing, and then what it is for the end game. How different those two games are within the same game. But I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah. And yes, Andre, Narcos and Nachos, you betcha. And Camille, any plans for streaming 89 and or another Age of Steam map? I thirst for trains. Yes, on both. Good to know, James, on the rule book apparently isn't so hot on Hitler's Reich. Okay. Okay, good to know. James, regarding the Apple, is it a prelude to streaming Newton? Maybe. Anyone asked about dominant species marine and my thoughts on it? My thoughts on it are hell yeah. I'm excited to check it out. And no, I can't wait to check it out. The end. I mean, dominant species in the ocean. Yes. Okay, I'm in. Sign me up. Throwing money at the screen. Yes, I'm in. Yeah, new board order. I'm thinking Mage Knight would be a solo or 2-player game for sure. Plus, I know it runs really, really long. I think that would be good. Vince, before I hit the sack, pop back on to remind Edward of the King, Chimera, Kamahima, whatever, clues in the game of Time's Up, among amazing other clues. Yeah, Time's Up. It just is, yeah, it's fantastic. More Age of Steam requests. See? See? Undefined. Any more news on Age of Steam maps coming from Heavy Cardboard? Um, that's backburnered a little bit. I need to get everything status quo and consistent, and then I'll have more news on that later. Okay. Windy City Meeple. Hi, first off. So if you had to pick a game between Brass Birmingham, Underwater Cities, I'm sorry, Brass Birmingham, or Teo, which do you think is best? Tough call. And it would all depend on my mood. All I would play. I'll leave it at that. Kabuki Kid, Block War games. After I get the PTZ camera, because the original plan on how I was going to do it because of the low ceiling here won't work. Once I get the PTZ camera, Block War games absolutely are going to happen. Absolutely. Paul, how's Boston treating you? I think there's a great gaming community here. There absolutely is, and so far so good. Really, really happy. Joseph, not going to WBC this year. Andrew, you've tried to make clear your stances on how you keep separation from publishers. I noticed a tweet today that Jess is using the studio for her development publishing business. Any comments? She's not associated with any publisher anymore. She no longer works or runs any publishing company. As far as development, it's a room. The end. It has no impact on Heavy Cardboard or me. So hopefully that answers your question. Hey, did you see the DM I sent you too? Simon says, I truly hope the future holds a Glory to Rome stream of Argent, the Consortium. Oh, nice. There are definitely some others that we have recently played that I think would be good. Believe it or not, I think Newton would make a fantastic Glory to Rome stream. I wouldn't have guessed that. But now having played it a couple of times, it absolutely would be a great Glory to Rome stream. So more of those will be coming as well. Whew, I have made it. I've caught up, and look at that. It's 1 o'clock. That's good timing to call it here. So thank you, everybody. Hopefully I answered everybody's questions to the best of my ability. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Real quick, Donning the Purple playthrough, when? Coming. It's actually sitting on the shelf right over there. So yes. And TI4, once we get a PTZ camera, to be able to, that and High Frontier both can be potential streams because the boards are too big. to be able to, the camera would have to be zoomed out so far that it would become just a mass of just color. You wouldn't be able to tell detail, but with the PTZ camera, you will be able to. So these huge sprawling games like that can't happen till then, but that's the impetus for wanting those cameras along with the block war games. So there's that. Okay. So that said, I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did as well. It's been a heck of a year. And I got to be honest, there's been a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and a lot of really tough times in 2018, but I am really excited for 2019. I think the future is bright, both for me personally as well as for me professionally in heavy cardboard. Hopefully you guys share the sentiment, and for those that do, awesome. For those that don't or are taking a wait and see, I don't blame you. I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. So just check it out, and I look forward to feedback from everybody in the coming weeks, months, and year. 2019. So that said, obviously I'll be back with live streams. Tomorrow we have Underwater Cities, and then a little bit the week of Christmas, but it's going to be a scaled back week a little bit because, oh yeah, it's Christmas. That said, I hope everyone has had and will continue to have a really great holiday season. And yeah, regardless of what holiday it is that you celebrate, I hope you are able to spend time with those that you care about, gaming, family, friends, otherwise, whoever you care about. Hopefully you're able to spend some time. And if you're not able to spend some time, be sure to send a little note. It could be a phone call, it could be a text, could be a DM, could be anything. Just let them know you're thinking about them, because let's face it, it can be a tough time of year for folks. So remember the people that matter to you. Remember to reach out to them. All right. So thank you everybody for the support. Like, subscribe, Pledge HC. There we go. PledgeHC.com if you want to support the show. I really would appreciate it, y'all. That said, have a Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everybody. And I'll see y'all tomorrow for Underwater Cities and next year for the next Ask the Elephant. Take care, everybody.